about Cole, and then we'll talk a little bit about the college football playoff rankings that came out last night. Play a little bit of a game with that. But I'm excited, man. It's Wednesday night. There was good football. I don't know if you watched last night, Miami versus Miami of Ohio, the real, a Miami that was undefeated.
Parker Navarro versus Parker Navarro getting revenge and doubling down on the MAC championship from a season ago. Hell yeah.
The fake reverse kickoff return for a touchdown. Phenomenal. That's what you want on a Tuesday night. Like, I was watching, I was telling, I think I said this on Monday, but like I did a show with Graham reacting to the college football playoff rankings. Shameless plug. It's on the channel if anybody wants to check that out after this. But where we dissected and critiqued, and honestly, the playoff committee I thought did a good job. We'll talk about that in a minute. But overall, did pretty good job in the rankings. But anyway, so I literally stopped and I was like, all right, I got to watch this. This fake return. But Tuesday night match, like this is everything you want in college football. We get more football tonight. We get more tomorrow night, more on Friday. And then obviously Saturday is the games we'll talk about. But yeah, off to a good week. We're halfway through the week at this point and getting closer to football.
I don't disagree. Some very good overall performances that we saw last night in the MAC-tion. Got more tonight. Got games for Kent State versus Ball State. Toledo's trying to go ahead and find their way back in. So, I mean, let's see what they do. And I agree with you. I think that the college football playoff committee, I had two gripes with them that we'll get to later on, but there really wasn't much to argue in the grand scheme of things when it comes to where everyone ranks. And by the way, 98% of it's going to solve itself out within the next 2 to 3 weeks. So go ahead and put down your pitchforks. Don't light the torches just yet. In 2 weeks, when we see a couple teams lose some games and they're still getting a little bit of benefit of the doubt, then we can go ahead and raise arms and talk about how the ACC is just getting slighted. Because Florida State's not going to the playoff this year.
Probably unlikely. Could you imagine the chaos it would take, though? Like the FCS week, like all the SEC teams just lose.
I kind of am hoping that at this point. Just
wouldn't it be
as much chaos as possible. Notre Dame go down, Miami go down, countless others go down. Just Florida State, find a way to win.
Put them in,
keep momentum going, guys.
Yeah, man.
Bring you back in after screwing you out in 2023.
Yeah, never say die. Their 8-4 team gets in somehow. And on the last thing on the playoff, and then we'll talk Bama LSU. Even the gripes that I had about the committee, I could understand why they did what they did. It was at least, I thought there were at least, like, sometimes I just think there are like logical fallacies the committee commits to get to their conclusions. The couple of gripes that I had, I didn't agree with, but I could understand why they did what they did. Some of that was acceptable to me, some not, but like, I thought they at least stuck to a pretty good, like their compass was pointing in the right direction. Like they stuck with what they said and they kind of did what was asked for the most part. So anyway, all right, on to what we're here to talk about. Appreciate Paul in the comments as well. If you're watching on Twitter or X or whatever, go over to YouTube so that we can see your comments. We would certainly appreciate that. But Bama LSU this week, Cole. I've said this like 4 times on the channel now, so sorry for to be repetitive. This was the game of like my formative years, right? Like my teenage years when I was watching college football, like the winner of this game, which more often than not was Bama, was going to the SEC championship and thus going to the national championship if they took care of business there, which they normally did. I don't remember how many times from like 2006 until 2000, whatever it would be, 2015, 16, somewhere in there. The team that from the West didn't, when it was one of these two teams, didn't take care of business. I know that, Florida got a couple in there and stuff, but unfortunately just not the same vibes, but still pretty interesting with Frank Wilson taking over. Both teams coming off of a bye. What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, so as a Bama grad, this was always the game of the year. It was the game of the year on campus. It was the game of the year for what was just the ambiance of the matchup. And more specifically, this was always we have a mutual respect and a mutual disdain for you. And so that added more validity to this matchup. And while you may say that no more Brian Kelly on the sidelines, Alabama's rolling coming off of a bye week and that they're making sure that they set records in the SEC, there still is a lot of pride to play for in these two sides. I mean, for the state of Louisiana, you want to go ahead and beat up on Alabama. You want to go ahead and prove that you are the superior team, that you can be still a threat for the long haul. And for Alabama, you want to have a sigh of relief. Because remember, you still have 2 more games against Power 4 opponents in Oklahoma that has rejuvenated some life in itself. And then Auburn, you play at Jordan Hare. And weird things never go right in the Iron Bowl when you go play in Tuscaloosa. When you play at Auburn, everything and anything is on the horizon, including losing that game. So you just want to give yourself a peace of mind that we're in a good spot, win or lose. We know that we should be a lock for the playoff at this standpoint. A couple things that I'm looking for in this game. Number one, Frank Wilson came out and said after his introductory press conference, we're going to change up the offense. We got rid of Joe Sloan. We're bringing in a new play caller. We want to do some things different. One of which is we want to run the football more. We want to be a more physical team in the trenches. Well, on paper, that makes a lot of sense because Alabama's weak point of its defensive line is the run game. They have allowed a couple of explosive plays and yards after contact and the inability to make tackles. On the flip side, this is one of the worst rushing offenses in college football, and it has been for the last 2 years. So what's going to be the changes that we see in the offensive personnel that allows a team like LSU to be able to get the ball moving efficiently on the ground early on in the game to then set the passing attack? Can it be salvaged? And if it can be, are you going to Jujuwan Johnson? Are you going more to Caden Durham? Who's going to be that lead back that kind of takes on over and changes the overall persona of what we know about this rushing attack? A rushing attack that on paper is terrible, but does have the talent to, I think, make plays. Garrett Nussmeier, what are we going to see from him? You know, we know that he's been dealing with some injuries at times. You're coming off of a bye week. Do you feel like that you've healed enough to where you're going to be on possession to make a lot of plays and make some timely plays? I think for whoever is going to be, running the show offensively, whether it be Michael Van Buren or Garrett Nussmeier for the long term, I look at the short game and I look at being able to get the ball out in a timely manner and force Alabama to have to play near the line of scrimmage to stop you. Because last season, we watched as Alabama, they took advantages, and this really was kind of the marking point of what was just the downfall of LSU last season defensively. They took advantages of being able to win in space with Jalen Milroe, and Milroe ran rampant out in Death Valley. Well, can you do something similar to that, but with guys like Trey'Dez Green at tight end? Quick little slant pattern for a 6-yard gain, but instead he goes off to the races and he gets like 25 yards, 30 yards. What about Xavier Thomas? We watched Vanderbilt nearly bring him down behind the line of scrimmage, and then he was in the end zone for a 67-yard score. Can you do those things? Just quick tempo, timely passes, making plays to be able to win those one-on-one battles and put yourself in a position where you think that it's going to be really beneficial for you to go out there and keep pace with Alabama. I think that you will see a stingy fight from the LSU team because of, again, it's going to be something that we haven't seen before with Alabama because it's a new play caller. It's a new offensive persona. Now, on the flip side for Alabama, the thing is going to be, hey, we're coming off of a bye week. We did not look great offensively against South Carolina. South Carolina is a okay defense. This is still an elite defense. Numbers will back that up. This is a good overall unit that will come after quarterbacks and force them into making mental mistakes. They're great against the run. Now, how good are they going to be with weeks down? Doubtful, according to Frank Wilson on the SEC teleconference today. He is not expected to play in this matchup. That does put a hindrance on maybe he can get the ground ball rolling with Daniel Hill, with what you got with Jay Miller at times. But I think that if you are LSU and you're Blake Baker, you're kind of taking away the passing attack. Like Ty Simpson, the thing that's been so great about him this season is his ability to target receivers and not have a legit number one threat. Like on Saturdays, there have been times where Ryan Williams gets the ball 5 catches for 99 yards. There's also been games where he gets the ball 1 catch for 12 yards. And that's because of Rico Scott is able to make some plays. Latsier Brooks is able to make some plays. Isaiah Horton, he's expected to be back fully healthy. He makes some plays. Josh Sevis at tight end. So can you force Alabama to really hone in on one receiver? Maybe it's Jeremy Bernard, maybe it's Ryan Williams, but you say, we will let him beat us. But everybody else, the other 6 guys that he's working with, you can't target. You have to go to him and we'll only allow you to get to him. And then at that standpoint, you're going to force Ty Simpson to have to run the football a little bit more, and you're going to have to trust his athleticism to get out into space. Now, Ty Simpson's not an elite runner by any means whatsoever, but he's not a statue. He's not Garrett Nussmeier. He will take off and he will tuck and run the ball to put his offense in a position where they can strike. Can you do a good job with the Harold Perkins or whoever you want to line up? Maybe it's an AJ Halsey at safety to play near the line of scrimmage and make sure that 15 doesn't get many yards after the line. Can he gain 2? And you go from being in a 2nd and 10 to now a 3rd and 8 versus a 3rd and 3 or a fresh set of downs. Can you do those little things right? The other thing is that can Alabama consistently win on 3rd down? That was a problem in the 2nd and 3rd quarter against South Carolina. This is a very good 3rd down defense that Blake Baker has, and he could send the house to make sure that they end up taking a step backwards rather than a step forward. If those things happen, LSU, road game, gotta have moment, trying to prove that you can change the culture, and the Crimson Tide looking to show that they are still the Crimson Tide of old. This may end up being one of the best games of the year. But the bottom line is that there are two things that I think do go against LSU. Number one, offensively, they are very limited on the ground. And number two, TJ, have you seen the record of Kalen DeBoer in his head coaching era back at Fresno State, even when he's coming off of a bye week?
Yeah,
Every
he's
single
great.
time. It's not just about winning. It's how well they looked. They've looked exceptional against Georgia. They looked exceptional against LSU last year. They looked exceptional against Stanford. They looked exceptional against, I believe it was Oregon State. It's how they respond during that bye week that makes it a very big challenge. And I don't know if LSU is going to have the Jimmies and Jones to stop that.
How much do you think, I chatted with Blake Rufino, AYS Sports, about this earlier in the week. How much did you think? So I'm a little bit split on this. Let me back up before I ask my question. I think the Florida fans celebrated the way that they looked against Georgia as, oh, look, we look better without Napier, which there could be some truth to that. I also think it's very easy to get up for games against your biggest rivals, right? And so some of that coincides well. Like, it wouldn't have shocked me if Florida played well against Georgia when Napier was there. Knock on wood, or not, knock can't hit. They played well against Texas, and Texas was obviously going through things, and Napier was there too. So I think when you play these big games, you automatically get up. However, I do think that at times they did look better offensively. They looked a little more fluid. Lagway looks more healthy. That's not a Napier or not Napier thing. But I do kind of translate over to this game. We talked about LSU will get up for this game. They will be into, but thoughts on how LSU's offense may look different without Sloan there, without, Brian Kelly there. Like, can Nussmeier maybe not take as big of a step as like Lagway did from pre-bye week to now, but that feels like it'll be a big factor too.
My big question is, we've seen LSU do this far too many times where the run game isn't working. So they say, all right, we're going to throw the football, and we're just going to continue to throw the football, and we're going to put all the pressure on 18 to have to be the guy. And it comes back to bite them because there are just some limitations going up against certain defenses. Do we see Frank Wilson, who was a former running backs coach, does he just lean into the run? Like, there's 12 plays in, and it's an 11-1 run to pass option. At that standpoint, are we still saying, okay, after these 11 plays, we're not able to run it efficiently, we're only averaging 2.1 yards a play? Does this where we kind of turn it down, go back to the pass? Or does Wilson do it different and say, no, we're going to throw it on this drive, but the second that they think that we're only going to throw the football, we go right back to run again? I think that was always the downfall of Joe Sloan, is that they gave up on the run far too early because they knew that they were already down and in a hole, and it wasn't working for them. But my fear is that we're going to see those similar results to where Alabama maybe jumps up to a 10-point lead, and because they see those double-digit markers, well, now we got to throw the football. Well, Garrett Nussmeier is, in my opinion, not fully healthy, number one, and I still have my questions at the wide receiver spot. Now, Barian Brown's made some plays. Trey'Dez Green is awesome at tight end. He's a freak of nature in space. Xavier Thomas can make plays after the line of scrimmage, but I still wonder, Alabama's not a defense that you just mess around with and figure things out, especially in the secondary. They're top 5 in coverage. I mean, they do a good job of winning their one-on-one battles and blanketing receivers to make balls be overthrown, and then defensive backs are in the right place at the right time to go ahead and waltz it all back in. So I could see that being the case. I wonder what we're going to get from Frank Wilson if the rushing attack is starting to teeter off and you go, no, we're going to trust this. It will figure its way out.
What's the Alabama? We give credit to LSU for, they'll get up for this game. I mean, I think Alabama will too. That's the problem, right? Like, this is not, if this was, a game in, I don't know, if you were playing Mississippi State on the road, if you're playing Missouri this week, I don't know, maybe it'd be a little bit different, but Alabama sees the logo on that other side of the helmet too. And I don't think Alabama views this as like, oh, well, it's a down LSU team. Let's like kind of take it easy and not go. I think that's the problem, is Alabama certainly gets up for this. And I just think the way the two teams are playing, it leans so heavily towards the Crimson Tide. I thought Florida State quit against Stanford, and then they rebounded really nicely off of a bye week and looked good against Wake. Different competition here. I think LSU quit against Texas A&M. They certainly could rebound here, but it feels like the kind of game that if Alabama just takes care of what they need to, they should have a lot of paths to victory in this thing. And that's probably LSU would probably need some pretty big breaks to go their way or play to a level that we haven't seen yet this year.
The line broke earlier on Monday when we did our predictions at 9.5. I think that this is going to be under 10 points. I truly do think that. I think that there is going to be some fight in LSU. There's pride in this game. For years, it would decide not only the SEC West champion, but who would go to the college football playoff, who would compete for a national title. And you don't just lose that gusto because of you lost a head coach. No. That's always just going to be the case. But Alabama, I think, has the superior offensive line. I think Alabama knows what its offensive identity is. And the crazy part is we didn't even mention Ryan Grubb. Ryan Grubb gets into his bag of tricks once a game. And he probably still has 13 to 14 plays dialed up in the back of his mad scientist lab that he's waiting to go ahead and unfold. And some of them are going to be saved for the playoff. Some of them may be on display against LSU because if they understand what this matchup is. Like, I consider this to be Alabama's second biggest rival of the last 20 years, simply because of what this game has meant. And that may end up not being the case long-term. Because remember, TJ, this is the last time, because if it's not a part of their annual opponent schedule, that these two will play against each other. I think that you want to make sure that you leave a message if you're the Crimson Tide. We've owned you. We've always owned you. Nick Saban left you. He didn't leave us. There's the difference. I think Alabama wins. I think LSU covers the 9.5. That line's gone down to 8.5, so maybe Alabama wins at this point and covers. But I think that we're talking about something along the lines of a 31-23 final score or something like that.
I'm going to go slightly higher. I'll stick. Yeah, I'll go 34-24. I'll say they do cover. I'll say they cover the original line by the hook. Yeah. So 34-24. It's just me and you today. I mean, as the people on the screen can't tell that, but sleeper, we will make some picks with or without Tom. Right now on the Sleeper app, there is a free play. Listen, I know none of you are tuning in for NBA talk. Luka Doncic is a free pick tonight at 0.5 points, rebounds, and assists. They play the Spurs. 10 o'clock. You ain't got to stay up and watch it. I will because I'm a psychopath. But if you're making picks on other stuff, add the Luka play to your pick so that you can increase your payout. Ty Simpson, 2.5 passing touchdowns. We'll start with this Bama game since that's what we just talked about.
My bad. It's actually against the Lakers, not the Spurs for the Mavericks. Anyways, Ty Simpson, I'll take the more. Do I want to take the more?
No, Luka's on the Lakers now. You're throwing me off here. Luka's on the Lakers.
My bad. You told me. Well, no, I mean, you told me that was.
I screwed up the NBA thing by bringing the NBA into it.
I keep thinking he plays for the Mavericks. I should know that by now. Yeah. Okay. I go more, but I don't like it. I really don't.
I don't either.
The thing is that LSU still has a really good secondary, and honestly, Mansour Delane and AJ Halsey are going to be playing at the line of scrimmage to bump and scoot these guys off. I do think that Ty Simpson, though, finds two receivers. Maybe it's Jeremy Bernard and Josh Sevis. Maybe it's Rico Scott and Latsier Brooks. And then the question is, does he find the third? I'll say more, but it's like a coin flip at this point.
Yeah, I was on the less anyway, but then you just totally talked me out of even considering the more. Listen, it's just to count on 3 touchdowns. And with my luck, if I take more, he'll have 1.
Right.
Like that's how it'll work. Castellanos was half a touchdown in that opener against Bama, and he had 2 catches down inside the 3-yard line. So that's just how my luck works. I'll go less on Simpson's passing touchdowns. I still like them to score 34 points. I just think they get a couple on the ground as well. Bear Bachmeier, this is our next game we'll talk about. Texas Tech and BYU. The quarterback, we're in number 47, 38.5 rushing yards against that Texas Tech defense.
I go less. This is the number 1 run defense in the country. I mean, there's a reason why very few teams have been able to find success against them. I think LJ Martin is going to be the key to this game, running the football. So I'll take less. But again, much like Ty Simpson, don't feel good.
I'll be the contrarian here again. I'll go more on this. I think Texas Tech wins this game. Oh, sorry to give away the preview there. But that's all right. This is getting clipped up anyway. So unless you're watching live, you don't get that spoiler alert. I'm going to go more because I think they are trailing and playing a little prevent, and he's able to stack on some yards. Like this is one 20-yard run in the fourth quarter down by 10 where he goes over the total. Very possible to me. So I'll go more there. Julian Sayin against Purdue. This is a huge number, though. 294.5 passing yards.
I'm sorry. Like I've seen people say how disrespectful we were to Julian Sayin. So I won't be disrespectful. I go more. I do. I mean, it's not Michigan who has a militant offense right now. They have weapons and they have countless names that are going to make plays. I could see this being a 400-yard day for him. I really could. So I'll go more.
Yeah, they can call their own number here, and I think they're going to continue to increase the Heisman candidacy with stats. And so ultimately, I think that the Heisman is going to come down to who wins that game in Indy, but I'll go more here as well. We'll agree for the first time. Let's flip over the other side of that Big Ten matchup. Fernando Mendoza, 236.5 passing yards against, shout out to Tom, who is moving right now, Penn State.
I go more. I don't feel good about going more, but I also watched as Penn State got mollywopped by multiple defenses. I mean, multiple offenses. Yeah, more, but again, I think it's going to be like right at that 240, 250 line.
I'm going to go more on this one. Sorry, Tom. I just have no faith in Penn State's defense. And this could even be a close game for a half, just like the Ohio State game was. And then I think Indiana just turns it on in the second half if needed. But they also may just kind of wax them from the beginning. How much does Penn State really have to play for at this point? Jaden Mayava, 1.5 passing touchdowns against Northwestern.
It's a Friday night game, which does lead to me having a little bit of kind of concern. It's weird stuff. Weird stuff has been going on Friday nights. I will go more because it is the number one passing attack in the country. They are one of the best red zone efficient scoring offenses, and they have two studs at wide receiver. But it's not one to where it's like, if you say less, I'm not gonna push back that much.
I'll go more as well. I think he finds a way to get two, but yeah, nothing would shock me with this being a 24-13 game in a weird Friday night matchup in the Big Ten. But I do think he gets two.
I almost want to preview this game just because of how weird it's going to be.
Tune in on Friday morning when we
come back out with it.
Come back for our third show of the week. All right, two more.
Source says Northwestern wins.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't that be fun for the playoff committee? Then what would they do with Notre Dame? Diego Pavia, 210.5 passing yards against coachless Auburn Tigers.
I go more because it's going to have to be to win this game. Like, we talk a lot, and I brought this up last week. I said that he was going to have to throw for over 200 yards, which would be the first time against a Power 4 team to even win. And don't get me wrong, they didn't win, and some of it was garbage time, but 365 passing yards. Like, they made it clear you couldn't run the football. Auburn has just as good as a run defense as Texas, so I think more.
I'm going to go, man, Auburn's defense is really good. I wonder how much Auburn has to play for. I mean, nothing, obviously, at this point, just pride and maybe next year's NIL deals. I'll go, what did he throw for against Texas? Well, that Texas one is so lopsided, though. Like, what did he throw for 3 quarters in that game?
I think it was at 254.
Okay. All right. Well, then I'll go more.
I was going to say, if you want to go ahead and go less, here'd be the stat line. This was the first time against a Power 4 opponent, and the second time in the last 2 years he's thrown for over 200 yards.
I'll stick with more. Gunnar Stockton, with the cowbells ringing, 237.5 passing yards.
I go less. For some reason, I think this is going to be one of those games to where, yes, Georgia will win. Yes, Georgia will cover. But I think it's going to come down to Chauncey Bowens and Nate Frazier more so than it's going to come down to Gunnar Stockton. I think Gunnar Stockton's affected with his legs more than he is with his arm.
I'll go more on this one. I think they are able to pass well. This is one deep one to branch. Yeah, I'll go more. I'll lean there just to be a contrarian. So use our code CFA on the Sleeper app, 100% match up to $100. Again, not to confuse anybody, but go add the Luka Doncic pick to your play so that you get the free pick tonight. Texas Tech and BYU. Before we get into this game, let's talk a little bit about the rankings. These two teams at 7 and 8. is very interesting. I'll tell you what's interesting. Utah being at 13, which basically means that whoever loses this game, unless Utah loses, cannot fall past 12th. Now, the cutoff line right now is 10th because you're going to need a group of 5 and then a quasi group of 5, also known as the ACC. So the cutoff is 10. So falling to like 11th is still technically out of the playoff for now. But the loser of this game can only fall 3 or 4 spots. I suppose, unless it's like a 30-point drubbing and that's Texas Tech's second loss or something kind of out of the ordinary that we wouldn't expect there. But the College Football Playoff Committee kind of pigeonholed Texas Tech and BYU into that top 12 by putting Utah at 13th. And so no matter who loses this game, they will still be ahead of Utah in the Big 12 standings. Both of them will still have the head-to-head over Utah. And it would surprise me if either of these teams dropped further. I think that's really good news for the Big 12. I think they have a great chance to get 2 teams in this year. BYU has been impressive by finding a way to win all of their games, but I wouldn't say they've been overly impressive. They feel like that gritty team that just finds a way to win. This will be their biggest test, and it's not close. What do they need to do to go on the road and win at Texas Tech this weekend?
There's a lot of things that they need to do. For starters, though, from the big picture standpoint of things, it's not far-fetched, TJ. It isn't. And I know there's many people out there that have seen this. 3 Big 12 teams could make the college football playoff. There is a scenario where, hey, Utah wins out. Utah gets a little bit of help from Oklahoma and Texas losing, and they go 9-3. Their only 2 losses are to the 2 teams that are playing this weekend. That does benefit them. Yep. And if Texas Tech wins, that really benefits them. If BYU wins, I think it's a guarantee at this point 2 Big 12 teams are going to the college football playoff. And that to me is, I think, almost a lock right now. You can't argue, I think, you can argue with a lot of things. I don't think you can argue that.
BYU would finish 12-1 at worst with a loss to Tech. Now, Texas Tech takes another loss in the conference championship and they're 10-3. I think you could have some arguments there. But if
Utah would get in though as an at-large bid, in my opinion, if they were to go 10-2. So we could still make
that. But if they lose the conference championship and that's their second loss to BYU, would they maybe drop then?
I think Texas Tech would drop then. I don't think that BYU. I think regardless of if Texas Tech were to run the table afterwards and still go 10-2, and Utah were to go 10-2, and let's just say one of them goes in, the benefactor of not playing in that Big 12 championship game at 10-2, I think gets 2 in. So right now, the Big 12, I think they're fighting for 3. They're guaranteed to get 2. If you are BYU in this game, you're going to have to play BYU football, which is basically number 1, win with time of possession. BYU is 18th in the country in time of possession. They're going to have to trust their ground game. They're going to have to trust LJ Martin, who's going to be back fully healthy, and Bear Bachmeier to make plays. This is the number 1 run defense in the country. And that says a lot about what you are. Now, at the same time, LJ Martin and Bear Bachmeier have combined this year for 14 touchdowns, and they average 5.3 yards a play. Can you live in that range to open up the playbook on 2nd and 3rd down? Whether it be LJ Martin going for, let's just say, a gain of 6, and then it's 2nd and 4. Bear Bachmeier tuck and running and gaining 5. All right, well, now it's 3rd and 1. Can you play that brand of football where maybe the explosives aren't connecting really well, but you do enough to be able to open up where your offensive play design is on 2nd and 3rd down to force Texas Tech to kind of have to play against you in that standpoint? So that's going to be number 1. Number 2 is going to be, can they actually win on 3rd down? The element that has been really hindering the success of BYU offensively this year, and not by much, because BYU's done a good job, I think, in a lot of standpoints. Number 1, inability to throw it on 3rd down and just 3rd down conversions in general. They're 66 in the country. They struggle at times if they're not in a 3rd and short situation to be able to pick up the 1st and keep the drive alive. So they're going to really trust on winning on 2nd down. That way they don't have to live in 3rd down. This is a very, very, very under-the-radar secondary in the form of Texas Tech. They can make plays. They can get after wide receivers. Can you win your one-on-one against Chase Roberts and basically make him obsolete? Can you force LJ Martin to have to get multiple yards taken off this line of scrimmage? That way, you force Bear Bachmeier to throw. Because again, if you can force Bear Bachmeier to throw, he may have some decent numbers, but he has not been elite by any means through the year this year. 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He's also only been sacked 9 times, so you're going to have to pressure BYU's offensive line with this front 7 that's basically made of a Frankenstein monster of former ACC, SEC, and Big Ten guys to all go after the quarterback, who wears number 47 for some reason. I hate it, and it bothers crap out of me, but I won't really get into that. who's going to be the number 2 receiver in this game? Is it going to be Parker Kingston? And what if it's not Parker Kingston behind Chase Roberts? Is it going to be Carson Ryan? Is it going to be Cody Hagan? You really have 2 receivers that win their one-on-ones for Bear Bachmeier. If you can take away one, it's got to be Chase Roberts, in my opinion. But if you can take away Chase Roberts and make him get the football out to either in the flats to Carson Ryan or Parker Kingston, I think you have a shot. I think that there's a very good shot that you can at least put yourself inside the red zone. The thing that I wonder about more so is, can you score inside the red zone? Because the other underlying thing that makes Texas Tech so dangerous, one of the best red zone conversion teams in college football this year. So I think if you are BYU, you got to play your BYU brand of football, and you got to also hope that you can force a couple of turnovers. Behren Morton's going to be starting in this game with Will Hammond out with the torn ACL. He is known in the past to maybe make some overthrown shots, maybe not be as pinpoint accurate as some quarterbacks like. That gunslinger mentality shows on up. BYU is really good in the turnover margin. They're able to force balls to land in their hands and play with short field position to where they can walk away with points. I'll tell you what was the most underlying stat that I thought was hysterical when I read this. Do you want to know what Texas Tech also leads the country in? Blocked punts and PATs. So can you maybe force a blocked punt to get the ball in your own territory to give Behren Morton some short field positions to work with when it comes to Caleb Douglas downfield or one of his running backs out of the backfield or the tight end position? Because if you do that, this may end up being a game where you're putting some people on notice on how dangerous you are.
Does it feel like, I just wonder if BYU can keep up offensively.
Yeah.
Like, I just feels like that's what it comes down to. Similar when we talk about Iowa, Oregon, feels the same there to me. You know, can Iowa score enough? Although I have a lot of confidence in their defense, can Iowa score enough to matter? And the other problem for BYU, Texas Tech has got a really good freaking defense too. It's not just like they're a one-trick pony. Like I don't know. Ole Miss's defense is fine, but similar to like an Ole Miss of old, right? Where they're going to score 1 million points and you might score 1 million points on them too. So I just like, can BYU get to 27 in this game? Like that would be, and I'm not saying they can't, and there could be a lot of possessions and there could be, there could be factors and ways that they do. I'm not trying to doubt that this couldn't be high scoring on both sides, but it feels like, man, 27 would be a lot for BYU to put up in this game against a really good defense on the road. They almost need to, for them to win this game, it feels like it needs to be more of a, man, they really hold Texas Tech's offense down. They get a couple of turnovers from Morton. Like, just thoughts there.
I don't know if it's possible because of a lot like Alabama. This is the version of Matt Leftwich's offense of, we don't need a number 1 receiver. We have a number 1 receiver. It's Caleb Douglas. He makes a lot of plays for us. He's found the end zone on 4 different occasions, but Coy Eakin's not that far behind with 460 receiving yards. And right behind him is Reggie Virgil. And right behind him is Terrence Carter. And right behind him, they have a pass catching back in Jacoby Williams. And Cameron Dickey's making some plays out the backfield. I mean, they've been able to do a good job of spreading the football around to win wherever they have their side advantages. What I think this game really comes down to is, you talk about a program that truly said, we're all in this year. Nobody in college football made it clear that they were all in more than Cody Campbell's Red Raiders. They went out and they bought as many players as they could to backfill their roster and make it seem like that they were the most complete team in the Big 12. And to be completely transparent, the way that they've played outside of that Arizona State game, they have been one of the most complete teams in the Big 12. Like, I'll be completely honest with you, TJ. We make fun of here on the Power 2 because if we talk about the 2 conferences more, that nobody can stop the Big 10 or the SEC. And at this point, you just wave the white flag and say, thanks for including us in the conversation, ACC and Big 12. Texas Tech is good enough to win a national title if they go toe-to-toe with some SEC teams, some Big 10 teams. Not every Big 10 team, but some. And I do think that this is going to be one of those games to where you need to see everything be put on display. Hey, we went out and we bought a lot of players, but you couldn't tell that they were transfers. They all come together and they look like one cohesive roster. And if they're able to do that, they should win this game outright. But BYU, I think, also has a standpoint of, we've been doubted the entire year, and here we are 8-0 for a second straight time. We're not going to find a way to fumble the bag like we did last season. We are going to put ourselves in the college football playoff. And we may trust our defense to get one more stop than you. All we have to do is hit that one explosive play and we're done. We're off to the races. And I think both are very much plausible in this game.
I have done a couple of shows on this already, and I have not made a prediction, but I will at this point, and then we'll move on to, oh boy, the next one. 34. Oh gosh, this is disrespectful. The BYU fans are so nice. I feel like a dog having to pick against them. I like you, BYU. I'd love to see the upset because I'd love to see the rematch and then both teams get in. But 34-23, Texas Tech.
I think both teams do get in even with a loss by either side. I truly do. Because I think somehow, some way, we are going to watch Utah mess it up. And there will be two teams that go to the playoff. But I think that Texas Tech wins this game. I go 34-24.
I think you're about to say 34-13, and I was going to say, dog, yeah, that is so disrespectful.
No, 34-24, 10-point swing. I hesitantly think that BYU maybe makes it 34-28, but I also think that there's a possibility where you just get one critical turnover at the right time. 11 a.m. kick. Tortilla is not going to be flying. I'll tell you what, there'll be people out in Lubbock. And by the way, this is one of those atmospheres where I can just promise you as a native Texan, Lubbock gets a bad rep for what it is as a town. When these type of games show on up, it is one of the best atmospheres in college football. And you're going to see it on Saturday. Everyone's going to understand how good of a game this actually is.
I'm very thankful that Florida State plays the late game. We'll talk about that in just a second so that I can watch this. Like, I was mad about Florida State playing the late game for a minute, but now that I see this game early, this is the one that this is honestly the game I think I care the most about this weekend outside of my team. This one should be a ton of fun.
I'm not going to lie. This is, in my opinion, the most important game in Big 12 football history.
Woo!
Guys, think about it. At least in the common era. Because if you win this game, there's a shot that you get 3 teams in the college football playoff. And that's the way to shove it to the SEC and the Big Ten.
Could you imagine? Let's talk about FSU and Clemson. I always like Cole go first.
Can you imagine this game happening when, remember, we thought it was going to be a playoff inductor and now it's goes on the hot seat fired potentially?
Yeah, now it's the ultimate pillow fight. I got a buddy that lives up right outside of Clemson who just is traveling the next or has to be somewhere else the next day. And he's like, yeah, I'm leaving out on Saturday morning. And I was like, the ACC pillow fight couldn't convince you to stay in town, could it? When I'm coming up there. And he was like, absolutely not. He said, if there would have been a little bit higher stakes on this, maybe I would have stayed to see you. And I said, no, I don't blame you. Florida State and Clemson Saturday night in, boy, is it even Death Valley at this point? That, it's Dead Valley at this point between these two teams. Did I see the stat correctly? They've lost their last 6 Power 4 games at home. They are just atrocious. They're a mess. They gave up 46 points to Duke this weekend, which is wild, right? I got a lot of respect for Manny Diaz and what he's done back-to-back years there, but still, come on. What are we doing here? I think both defenses will be atrocious. I love the over. I don't care what the number is. I love it anyway. I do think it's a little interesting to me that this is a 2.5-point spread. And I know that Clemson just finds way to lose at this point. Florida State's offense has put up a lot of yards and a lot of points. Where they struggle is when they don't start fast. And Duke started fast last week. They had a 2-score lead against Clemson early. But if Florida State goes down in this game, because I have zero confidence in their defense, I don't care that they held Wake to 7 points. Their quarterback, Wake's Ashford just couldn't not skip a ball. Yeah. I worry a little bit about Florida State going down early in this game and then continuing to chase, because Clemson's offense, admittedly, their defense was terrible. Clemson's offense put up 45 points against a Manny Diaz coach defense that doesn't have the athletes that Clemson or Florida State have. I get that, but still a pretty respectable unit in some regards, at least well coached, So that is what I worry about the most is, did Clemson get up for the Duke game? I don't know. It's hard to know that. They will get up for this Florida State game, as I think Florida State will get up for Duke too. I just worry about them being able to start quickly, because they haven't started quickly since really that Alabama game. They were down 14-0 against Virginia. They were down 28-3 before you could blink against Miami. They were down early in the Pitt game. They were down early in the Stanford game. There was 3 minutes left in the first half, and they were only up 7-0 on Wake Forest this week before the floodgates opened. And so they haven't started fast since the first 3 games of the year. And are they able to do that against a beat up defense, a defense that's not any good, a fan base that's just as toxic as Florida State's is? Maybe. And they need to. Gus has to be in his bag from play one. I don't think either team would quit in this game. I don't see this game being super lopsided one way or the other because I just think both defenses are bad enough to keep both teams in it. But if Florida State doesn't start this well, I think they'll chase all game and they won't find a way to come back. To me, we could talk about Cade, we could talk about Tommy, we could talk about Gus, we could talk about both defenses being bad. To me, it's all in who starts this game well, and whoever does is probably going to win.
I wonder about how much fight is there when it comes to Dabo, because Dabo at this point, the bottom line is that we don't know what the status is of Mike Norvell. He may end up being fired. Again, they came out with a statement that said, we're going to reevaluate at the end of the season. So he's good for the next several weeks. Dabo may just want to hit reset. And I feel like that last week's game, which again, I will gladly go on the record and say, as even a big Darian Mensah and Manny Diaz Duke fan, there is no shot in hell you could look at that play on fourth down and say Clemson had a pass interference defensive call against. There's no way. There's none. But at the same time, you also had a horrendous defensive performance, and you kind of wasted a really good game plan from Kate Klubnik. You wasted a really good ground game from Gideon Davidson, from Randall. I mean, like you had some things that went your way. So is there fight there in favor of Clemson to close out the year? I mean, you look at Clemson's schedule, they got to steal some games away. You can remember this. You get Louisville, Furman, South Carolina. Oh, and by the way, the Louisville game's on a Friday night. So let's add that to the conversation.
As someone who's experienced it, I know.
It's like it's another weird Friday night ACC battle. Oh, and Louisville's really good on the road on Friday.
Right. Yeah, they're not a bad team, right? Like Louisville's good. It's not just weird, freaky Bourbonville. It's Louisville's freaking good, and they might have the best coach in the conference.
And by the way, they're really good on Friday night because they beat JMU at 14, and they also beat Miami. So like they're good on Friday night. You got Furman and you got South Carolina. And South Carolina at this point, they may be playing for a bowl game at that level too. So it's like,
and that's on the road, right? That's in Columbia.
That's in Columbia. So this again is your last Power 4 home game of the year to kind of at least give your fans something to kind of be hopeful for. And more specifically for you, make it clear that this season wasn't a waste and that there are things that you want to change. But from Florida State's standpoint, you also have to kind of steal a few games. You got the Florida matchup, you got at NC State, and you're home against Virginia Tech. So, I mean, like, you're not guaranteed a bowl game either. You could lose 4 straight, and then it's 4-8, and now you're hitting reset on all different avenues at this point. But I think that what I wonder about more so in this game is who is going to be the quarterback that you trust to be able to get the job done a little bit faster? Is it Tommy Castellanos with his legs? Is it Kate Klubnik through the air? Do you see that consistency of the passing attack that has been very well on display for Clemson at times this year? Does that continue to be a factor? Or does the consistency of what we see from the ground game of Florida State end up pulling on out? I think that really, I agree with you. Whoever starts off fast is probably going to get the win. But I don't think it's as simple as that because both these defenses have allowed teams to fight their way back in when you thought the game was over. So that may end up being the case as well.
I wonder on this one. I think Florida State is playing better right now. And listen, I'm the biggest Florida State homer / hater at the same time that exists, right? Like, I understand how toxic things are, but I do think they're playing better right now. Look, they showed fight in that Miami game. They showed fight in that Stanford game in certain points. Now, we can all agree it's unacceptable to have to show fight against Stanford in the fourth quarter. They showed fight in that Wake Forest game. I thought they would quit after Stanford. I truly thought there was a great chance that Wake would beat them. And frankly, that game wasn't even close. It was never in doubt. Even from the beginning, you saw Wake's quarterback just skipping passes and penalty central and fumble central and everything else. They were not close to the same. And had Florida State played like they did against Stanford, it would have been a close game. Now, I still think they would have won by 10 or something, but it wouldn't have inspired a lot of confidence. Can Florida State stack that? And then I think they fought against Pitt. I think they fought in all their games. Minus maybe I thought they hung a little bit, their heads against Stanford defensively in some certain situations and just didn't execute very well. I wonder how much Clemson, I think if it was anybody else on the side of the, like if there was any other logo on the side of the helmet, Clemson would quit here. But because it's Florida State, I think that's a big deal. If this was Virginia, if this was BC, BC's terrible. That's a terrible example. If this
would they quit? Yeah, they probably would. They could still beat BC when they quit, but they would quit.
But because it's Florida State, I do think you get a good effort out of them. Now, just having a good effort does not mean that you execute well, right? Like Florida had a good effort. I thought Lagway looks better with his legs and arms and his arm than he had in a long time. He still missed the wide open wide receiver down the field that cost his team the game. So being up for a game does not mean that you execute well. And so I think Florida State's in a little bit better of a position here than Clemson, but a win against Wake is not enough for me. It's what happens first. Mike Norvell gets his second ACC win in 400 days, or Clemson beats a Power 4 team at home, right? Like that's the question.
What do you hope as a Florida State fan? Let me ask you that.
Say it again.
What do you hope as a Florida State fan?
I want to win the game. I'm going to the game. I am not. Last week, I was kind of like, oh, this could really be the last nail in the coffin because it was Wake, and there's no rivalry with Wake. Although Florida State fans will tell you, like, there's not that big of a rivalry with Clemson. They're just two really good teams. It's not like Miami or Florida. But there is more than any other ACC opponent besides Miami. So, yeah, I want to win for sure. This is not a situation where it's like, oh, let's lose and just get out of here. We could be down 14 in the fourth quarter and I'd be like, find a way to come back. Like, let's do this. So yeah, I'm all in on winning this one. And ultimately I'm not going to cheer against them for any week, but I still understand that Mike Norvell is not what this program needs long-term. I just don't have enough faith in our defense. And so I'm going to lean Clemson here. I think it's close. I think it's like 31-27. Clemson wins this.
I think if Dabo wants to at least guarantee there's a conversation of him coming back next year, you have to win this game. I think that if he loses this one and he were to lose to South Carolina and lose to Louisville, which I think both are going to happen, there's no shot of him coming on back. So I think that he wants to come on back. I think there's enough fight in him. I go Clemson winning this one. 38-30 final score.
Yeah, I think we get a fun one. Sometimes we get two bad teams playing each other. I mean, shoot, that Duke, not that I don't want to call Duke a bad team for all six of their football.
Apparently somebody has them in the playoff, so.
Ooh, that's a little rich. But I do like the ACC is going to be lucky to get one team in this thing, let alone Duke sneaking in.
9-3. That's a 9-3 team that sneaks its way in, TJ.
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, shoot. Wouldn't be the first time 2 years in a row. I will say it'll be like that Duke Clemson game was a ton of fun for a neutral to watch, and I think this will be a lot of fun too. You got two teams that aren't very good, and there's still some, not terrible blood, not bad blood, but it'll be fun. Vandy and Auburn. Vandy's got, and this is an interesting spot for Vandy because their season's still very much alive.
Yeah.
They finished up with what? Auburn, Tennessee at the end of the year, and Kentucky. They should. The Tennessee
it will be
game
favored in 2. They should at least win 2.
Right. 9-3 Vandy's not getting in though.
No.
I was talking to somebody. I don't know if you know who Sports Talk Jay is here on YouTube.
Yes.
Or I had him on the other night, and I said, but at least you guys you go down there and beat Florida for the first time ever in the swamp. It feels like, and then you could spoil it for Vandy. And he goes, dude, I cannot believe you just told me that Tennessee could spoil something. For Vandy. He said, you just pissed in my Cheerios. He was so upset that I said that, and I was like, dude, I didn't even mean it as a troll. Like you really could.
Do you watch? He's like Matt Mitchell.
He said, say what?
Do you watch Matt Mitchell?
He
said, so he does the SEC, the recap shows every single week. And he said, the refs were trying to favor Vandy over Texas. And the guy who's running the SEC meeting goes, that's a sentence that has never been uttered. It's just like, what universe are we living in where this is a legit thing that we talk about?
We say this all the time. We said it a few weeks ago when Vandy was a favorite against Louisiana State University. Tell 18-year-old Cole that. Like every week we say a new thing that we've never. Tennessee could spoil Vandy's season.
Okay, to be fair, 18-year-old Cole was alive when it was the 9-4 James Franklin season.
Yeah, that's true. That
one's a little bit far. Tell that to 21-year-old Cole with Derek.
Yeah,
there we go.
Vandy, and not like spoil their season on going to a bowl. We're talking about spoil their season for going to the college football playoff. And so anyway, back to Vandy and Auburn. It is a tricky spot because like we've just talked about, we've seen a lot of teams play up the week after their coach was gone, and they still have a good defense and they still are very good against the run. And should Vandy win this game? I mean, on talent alone, I don't know. Quarterback play, absolutely. 7 times out of 7, right? If this game was played any day of the week, yeah, you'd take the quarterback matchup. But I do wonder. I don't worry about Clark Lee with any kind of a look ahead. Again, you get Kentucky next, so it doesn't really matter. And do they even have a bye before that Kentucky game? Are they?
Yes, I believe so.
And so it's a weird spot, but one I think Vandy will ultimately have some success in. What are your thoughts on this game?
It's really interesting because if you look at it from a roster conglomerate standpoint and a composition standpoint. I hate using the composite rankings all the time, but sometimes you just got to look back and understand why a game happens. The reason why Texas won the football game is because they had a roster composite that was better than Vanderbilt, and the 5 stars stepped on up. From a roster composite standpoint, Auburn's a top 15 team in college football, if not a top 12 team in college football. They got weapons on the outside. They got talented defensive players. Their defense is the whole reason why they've been in every single game against Texas A&M, against Kentucky, against Arkansas. They forced turnovers. It's because of DJ Durkin and what he has. And to be completely transparent, DJ Durkin is trying to prove to everybody, don't make a coaching hire outside. Just give me the damn job. Let me just go ahead and run the program moving forward. I'll give the ball to Derek Nix, and he can be my offensive coordinator, and we'll work things out. And so that's going to be really interesting. I go back to the very beginning of the year. Do you remember the big quote that caught everyone's attention from Hugh Freeze? Well, I want to call the plays on first down. And then Derek's going to call.
Oh my gosh!
And now we're going to have another guy call the plays.
Had a hell of an offseason, man.
And so now Derek Nix is calling the offense. So my first question is going to be, does that work? Like, do they actually have a team good enough to where if you have a primary play caller, that ends up being a major benefactor that helps you on out? Who's going to be the starting quarterback, number one? Is it Ashton Daniels that can't throw the football to save his bleeping life? Or Jackson Arnold? Jackson Arnold, who can't throw the football that well, but he can throw it better and maybe gives you an opportunity to throw through the air. Because whether or not you want to say that Vanderbilt's defense was cardboard crap last week against Texas for 3.5 quarters, they also have a still great defensive line. Yeah. And so I do think that the area to where you can beat Vanderbilt is over the top with a Malcolm Simmons, with a Perry Thompson, with a Cam Coleman, with a Eric Singleton making plays. So that'll be priority number one is, can you get the quarterback to feel some type of rhythm in the passing attack? Number two is, can your defense basically follow the same formula on stopping Diego Pavia that everyone else is trying to do? And that is take away the rushing attack. The rushing attack in every single game up besides, I think, one for Auburn this year has been great. They shut down Baylor. They shut down Georgia. They only gave up 80-plus yards to Missouri. Like, they have been good against the run. They're top 10 in the country in run defense. Can you make Diego Pavia beat you through the air? Because last week we can talk about the 2 explosive plays downfield that eventually led to Vanderbilt get back in this game. But for the most part, the reason why they had to throw the football was they stopped the run entirely. Cedric Alexander, Maitland Young, they had 2 plays of over 15 yards downfield. Besides that, it was basically bottled on up. So if you can stop Diego Pavia from utilizing his legs, no Maitland Young, no Cedric Alexander, you're in a really, really, really good spot. Number 3, can you change up the offensive personnel and do something that we haven't seen before? Because that's kind of the beauty when you have an interim coach running the show. It's a new offense in the version that we are so unaccustomed to seeing. So does that maybe trick up Vanderbilt in some ways to where they end up falling for the bait? And lo and behold, here comes Cam Coleman running it down the field for a 60-yard strike. And here comes Perry Thompson picking up a gain of 15. And here we utilize the tight ends on third down, and it becomes such a benefactor that puts you in a position to where you're winning the time of possession. Now, for Vanderbilt's standpoint, this comes down to 2 main elements. Number one, you have the better quarterback. So can your quarterback look like the better quarterback for 4 quarters? Can he not have the turnovers inside the red zone like he did 2 weeks ago? Can he not have the turnover where he did against Texas inside of Texas territory where they were able to go ahead and walk on in for a field goal and get points off of it? And the second thing is, can you rely on more than just the explosive plays to get back into this game? Because if you need the touchdown pass right before halftime, where it was bad coverage by Texas to Eli Stowers to make it at least somewhat manageable, and then you need the touchdown late to Eli Stowers where bad coverage won at times to get the 67-yard strike. Auburn's defense, the weak point is its secondary. Can you be able to build any repertoire in the air to allow them to start getting the ball to guys not named Eli Stowers. Richie
Yeah.
Hoskins, Junior Sherrill, you could throw in Trey Richardson. Can you be a little bit more accurate? Because there have been times where it felt like this is where Diego Pavia is going to put the nail in the coffin, and they end up not doing it. And that's unfortunately the reality of what we've seen. So I'll be intrigued to see can we see the explosives through the year actually connect against this Auburn secondary? If those things all happen, Vanderbilt, the storyline that we have seen of this year, I think is going to carry a lot of weight. I also do think that, again, this is a top 12 composite roster. And we just watched a top 5 composite roster mollywop the crap out of Vandy in their backyard. But the game is also going to be at First Bank Stadium, and you want to have a little bit of bragging rights.
I think you've got to start Jackson Arnold here. I think against Kentucky, if you're Hugh Freeze, what were you doing last week? You were coaching for your job. And so you tried to do something different. You hoped that he could show a little bit of promise. The quarterback switch could show a little bit of promise. And I think you knew you wouldn't need very much offensively. Now, I don't think he expected, excuse me, as I'm getting choked up talking about Hugh Freeze. It's probably the Christian songs he plays during practice. But
that Liberty victory,
Liberty got to him, man. As a proud Liberty alum, playing Hillsong at practices. But I listen to Christian music, and that is wild. Like but on to this. I think he knew he wouldn't need very much offense, to beat Kentucky, and unfortunately for him, and not his bank account, but his career, they needed more than 3 points. I think in this game, you can't put him back out. Now if Arnold goes out there and throws 3 picks, or you may make a switch in game. I think if you're Durkin, you've got to start Arnold, and that's got to be, because you're going to have to. As good as their defense is, are they holding Vandy under 17 points? And realistically, that's your max. I think you may get with not starting Jackson Arnold, and that might even be very, very generous. And so, I think you go that direction, and you try to do the things you do well, and I do expect them to play up and play well. It made the joke about Tennessee earlier. They could be the ones to spoil Vandy's dream season right now. But ultimately, I don't think they do. I think Vandy wins this thing ugly, 24-16.
I'm a little bit meaner than you, but not by much. Vandy again. I could see a scenario where they end up going 9-3, and that end up being the loss coming to Tennessee. I think that Tennessee is the game that you have to watch out for. I do. I think that Auburn, and I'll be completely real, TJ. Part of the reason why I'm shitting on Auburn a little bit more these days, it's not because of I'm an Alabama grad. It's because of I made a future prediction 4 months ago saying that Hugh Freeze was going to be fired after Diego Pavia beat him 4 times in a row. And that's not going to happen anymore. So you know what? Instead, he's just going to beat Auburn 4 times in a row. So I'm going to say that 3 times in a row. I got a final score of 24-13. I think if they win by double digits, I think that this is a pretty good game in favor of Diego Pavia.
On to Oregon and Iowa. A little Big Ten love here, even though Tom left us for the day. Exactly. Tom will be back on Monday. But Oregon versus Iowa. Okay, so I had a beef with this game earlier in the week, and I hate to give the committee credit, but they made this a ranked matchup for us because it was not based on the senseless fools that work or that submit polls to the AP. Iowa absolutely deserved to be ranked. I thought that was what was it? A travesty, a sham, and a mockery. What do they call it? A travesty, a mockery. Yeah, it was ridiculous that Iowa was not ranked, and so I don't think that impacts the game at all. I think Oregon will take Iowa very seriously. They played the number 2 team in the country better than anybody else did this year. And so I think Oregon's full attention is on Iowa. There's no chance for a look ahead because they have Minnesota next week, although their remaining schedule having USC and Washington on it is interesting for sure and could create a lot of talking points later in the year. But this is an Oregon team that kind of like Texas Tech BYU. It's got to be their style here. And we've seen Oregon's offense struggle at times. We've seen them not look great against Indiana. We saw them find a way against Penn State, but that offense wasn't clicking there either. And so you go on the road to play another really good defense. Thoughts here?
Number one, this is not the same Iowa as we are accustomed to seeing. Now, it is in a lot of ways because let's just start off with this. They run the football very well. They play with that defense. They play with that physicality. They win in the trenches. They don't throw the football to save its bleeping life. You have like 11 touchdowns on the ground by Mark Gronowski and 4 passing touchdowns. But TJ, they're averaging 31 points per game. Now you're asking yourself, okay, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. What if I told you that they're averaging more points than Texas, Michigan, Clemson, LSU, Auburn, and Florida?
Not what I would have expected.
They are killing it in that standpoint. And so that's where I think it does give you a little bit of the benefactor. But you also haven't gone up against a top 20 defense this year,
Oregon's
except
defense
for
is great.
Indiana. And
Yeah.
Oregon is number 6 in the country when it comes to scoring. They're only allowing 13.5 points per game. So when you look at this matchup, I think it boils down to a few things. For Oregon, you got to trust the pass. Oregon has been such a good rushing attack this year. And they got 4 running backs that are all averaging over 4.5 yards of play. We know that they can run the football. What do we know about Iowa? And what do we know about a Phil Parker defense? They stop the run. They are going to force you to play uncomfortable the entire game in the trenches. And so I think eventually you're going to be able to run it. But what you got to do is you got to take your shots early. I think if you are Oregon, you have got to be able to set the tone and let them know we're going to throw it against you. And so you better buckle down with your top 15 secondary and make us run the football, and we're going to take our advantages. And you got some guys, whether it be Brian or Benson or Sadiq or Decorian Moore, you can win through the air. I want to see Deontay Moore take those shots, those 15, 18-yard plays downfield, going on the road in a very, very disgusting environment. Have you seen the weather for this game? It is bad.
Nasty.
Oh, God, 42 degrees, wind chill of 28, raining in the morning. It's not going to be a pretty game. But I think that if you are Oregon, you have got to be able to set the tone through the air to then allow yourself to now trust your 4-man backfield against the run. The thing that I wonder about for Iowa, how good is Iowa's secondary? Like, honestly, Iowa is number 15 in the country, or top 10 in the country in passing yards allowed. They've gone up against one top 10 passing offense all year. Top 20 passing offense.
Yeah, Fernando.
They're not even in, TJ, I'm going to shock you on this one. They're not even in the top 20. They're in the top 40. Rutgers is a top 20.
Oh.
And on that's it. So again, have you really been tested like the way that you're going to get tested against this type of personnel with great weapons at tight end and on the outside at wide receiver? It could be interesting in that standpoint. I think the other thing is that if you are Oregon, you can win in multifaceted ways. You can win with tempo. You can win by slowing down the clock. I think that if you're able to build a lead, let's say you go up 14-0, then start playing with tempo. Slow things down. Don't let Iowa get the football back, because then you know that they're going to have to play with tempo. And the crazy part is they suck with tempo, and they've always sucked with tempo. It doesn't matter if you have Tim Lester as as an offense coordinator. They're not good when it comes to moving the ball with the timely manner. Now, for Iowa, that's honestly, in my opinion, the biggest thing that you got to look at is, hey, we're good slowing down the clock. We're in the top 20 in the country when it comes to time of possession. I need them to play Army level of slowing down the clock. You walk to the line of scrimmage. You're waiting for the clock to hit 5, 4. All right, now we hike it. Like, there should not be a play where Tim Lester is running Mark Gronowski out there and saying, we are going to trust our rushing attack. Trust our passing. We get a playoff until there are 3 seconds left on the clock. That needs to be it, because you need to put as much pressure on this offensive personnel to go ahead and maybe make some errant throws downfield. When you're in the red zone, can you trust anybody other than Gronowski to run the football? Gronowski has 11 rushing touchdowns. The rest of the team combined has 9. Like, you got to be able to trust somebody else, I think, to run it. You're going to get your advantages when you get in the red zone. The crazy part about Oregon is that they are allowing a 72% red zone conversion rate. So teams, when they get inside the 20, they score. Now, here's the funny part, TJ. They've only allowed 13 red zone trips all year. So they're really good at not letting teams get within the 20 and striking. So can you make sure that when you're running down the clock and you're getting the ball out to your wide receivers, and really you're able to go ahead and trust your rushing attack to make some plays, that once you get close to the red zone, you finish drives and you're not settling for field goals. You actually get those 7 points. If you can do those things, this may end up being a game to where I think you can see a back and forth punch. The punch is going to come, I think, from Oregon in the standpoint of believing that your passing attack is going to be your backbone. I think for a team like Iowa, it comes down to winning on third down execution and milking as much time off the clock as possible. If that ends up happening, again, this feels like a game where Iowa needs it to stay alive, because if you're not getting it at 9-3. But Oregon's not guaranteed at this point to feel pretty comfortable getting in the playoff either, because you still got to face off against USC. And you still have to face off on the road against Washington. Those are 2 teams that are gunning for a playoff spot. This gives you a little bit more of a leniency to take that giant exhale and know we're 10-2, we're in the playoff. Like, we don't need to finish off the year at the right time. is this the version of Oregon that we see kind of take that jump forward the way that many other teams have to separate themselves and know we're kind of a playoff team? Like Oregon and Ole Miss to me in the month of November are the two teams that I've looked at the most and said, I need to have that clicking moment. All right, everything is heading in the right direction right before the postseason to believe they can actually win a national title.
Their ranking at 9 is interesting because, like you said, if they lose this, you're talking about Oregon up against the 10-2 Texas Tech or the 10-2 Utah or the 9-3 Oklahoma. And I think you're having a lot of questions if they do that. However, if they win now, solidify themselves more by being a top 20 team, then I do think that's on the road, a very good defense. I think that's a big deal. I do think this gets muddied up, yucky. Weather, all the things, the way that Iowa plays, I just have a little more confidence in Oregon. I think we get a really good one. 23-21 Ducks.
Wow.
Field goal to win it.
So here's my thing when it comes to Oregon. Oregon has a second punch. Like Oregon can go ahead and make a counter move because if you can trust your ground game, that leads to you getting the plays downfield or your passing attack. You don't have that with Iowa. You just don't. And Iowa is going to have to jab its way for 12 rounds against an Oregon team that maybe doesn't need to sucker punch you, but if it gets that one sucker punch, it derails your entire equilibrium and it throws you off balance. And that's what I think happens in this game. I think in the fourth quarter, you watch as Oregon pulls away. I'm actually going to be a little bit meaner. I think I wrote this down here. Yep, let me see. Hold on up. Yeah, I got a final score of 24-13. I think that there's just not enough offensive consistency that I can trust when it comes to Iowa. So I'll take Oregon to win. I'll take Oregon to cover.
Last up today, we'll do this quickly. College football playoff. It's kind of a buy or sell. Explain to the people what we're doing here, Cole, and then we'll do it quickly and get out.
Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to rank the teams as what we have seen in the initial playoff rankings in order of how we think most likely to make the college football playoff, least likely to make the college football playoff. So it can be in any type of order that you want, but the team that you currently are looking at, if they're at number 12, you think they're going to be out before we get to this month of December. If they're at number 1, they're going to be in the playoff. They can lose a game and nothing matters at this point.
So the team, I'm going to say that Ohio State's the biggest lock to get in.
Yeah.
No, you know what? I'll switch that. The game, I really 1 and 2 feel like the most sure thing to me. And so it's hard to differentiate. I'll say Indiana is the biggest lock because they don't play Michigan regular season and the result of the Big Ten championship is irrelevant. Yeah. So I'll say Indiana is the biggest lock. I still think Ohio State would get in it at 11-2, right? If they lost to Michigan and lost to Indiana, although that would leave a pretty bad taste in a lot of people's mouth, and maybe that wouldn't be the case. But I'll say Indiana is the biggest lock to get in at this point.
Indiana is the biggest lock to get in because if I do not see them losing a regular season game, it doesn't matter what happens in Indianapolis. Now, number 2, I agree. I believe it is going to be Ohio State.
At 3, I'll go Alabama.
Okay.
I'm going Alabama. I maybe just so that I'm not going down the rankings, but A&M has a tough one against Missouri, which we didn't talk about today. They have Texas at the end of the year. If they were to lose 2 of their last couple of games and miss Atlanta, I still think they get in with the win over Notre Dame. I think that'll be used to justify. But I don't see Bama losing any. Bama could lose one of their last 3 games, and because it's only 1 conference loss, they still get the trip to Atlanta. They have the head-to-head over Georgia. They have the head-to-head. Yeah, I think I'm going to go Bama 3. Maybe I'm just trying to be controversial because it might be A&M because of where they're at record-wise, but I'll go Bama.
Don't be surprised when I tell you this one. At number 3, I got Texas Tech.
Oh,
I think Texas Tech, I believe, is winning this weekend. If Texas Tech wins this weekend, next week they face off against UCF at home. Then they get a bye, and then they face off against West Virginia.
Yeah, they're winning.
I do not see them at this point going 10-2. If they win this one, they go 11-1. An 11-1 team, even before the college football conference championship weekend, would get in. I think Texas Tech goes 11-1. Therefore, they're a lock for the college football playoff.
So I'm actually going to skip A&M again. I'm going to go with, I'm going to say Ole Miss. I'm going to put Ole Miss next. So I guess that would be 5 for me.
That'd be 4.
4. Yeah. I think Ole Miss, and maybe that's sacrilegious again, not doing A&M just yet, but they still have the game against South Carolina. They still have the game against Texas. They still have the game against Missouri this weekend. I'll go Ole Miss here. They can afford a loss. That's the thing about Ole Miss at 6 to me is they can lose to Florida next week and be fine. They could lose the game against Mississippi State at the end of the year, and I think they'll be fine. So Ole Miss is a lock to me.
I will make it a little bit easier on the Aggie Nation. I think that you are number 4. I don't think that you will lose to South Carolina, and I do not think that you will lose to Samford. Therefore, if you go 10-2, you may not make it to Atlanta anymore, but you still will be in the college football playoff. So I go at number 4.
I'll go Aggies here at 5. I think that's fair. I cannot see, as much as they have more question marks left to be answered. If you took 2 SEC losses at the end, what would that do? But I will take, especially, Texas beats Georgia.
Yep.
And then beats A&M, but they go 9-3 and A&M's 10-2. But the last week of the year, we just watched Texas beat A&M. What do you do if you're the committee? Do you just go record?
So Texas beats A&M.
And beats Georgia. So Texas finishes. Oh, no, Texas would be 10-2 as well in that situation.
Both are in. That's easy.
Okay.
The question comes down to is, do they lose to A&M, but they beat Georgia?
Right.
Then we have that conversation.
Yep.
But I'll go now.
I'll go Aggies there. I think they're in. At 5.
5, I will go Ole Miss. Ole Miss is allowed to afford themselves a loss. You still got to beat Florida. Like, you still have to beat Florida. But if you win that one again, you're fine. You're either be 11-1 or 10-2, and you're not being left out of the playoffs. So 5 is fine.
I will go. So we're at 6 now. I'll go Georgia, but I'm going to skip. I'm not going Georgia there. I'll go Texas Tech. I'll put them in. I think there's a really good chance that even with a loss, they have a great chance to beat BYU and then the Big 12 championship because they have the head-to-head over Utah. They'll stay ahead of them unless they drop one of those bad games. I'll go 6 as Texas Tech.
6, I will go Alabama. I think Alabama maybe can drop a game to Oklahoma. It doesn't really matter at that point because you'll be 10-2. It's a 1 conference loss. You're still in Atlanta. If you go to your conference championship in either the Big 10 or the SEC, you're going to the playoff.
Getting in. Yep. And they'd be favored in that game anyway.
Yep.
Even with a loss.
7.
I'll go.
This one gets challenging right here.
It does. I'll go Notre Dame. They got the Pitt game, but I think the committee is not leaving Notre Dame out if they win out. It doesn't matter what Miami does the rest of the year. It doesn't matter what A&M does the rest of the year. Their brand is big enough. Has nothing to do with on the field. I think that's why they're 8 spots ahead of Miami right now without a great win. South Carolina or Southern Cal's a good win. I'll go Notre Dame.
This where it gets a little bit more challenging. I go Georgia, and I don't feel comfortable saying it, but I do go Georgia. I don't think that they will go unscathed. They've been playing with fire far too long to where they will get burnt. But what if they get burnt by Georgia Tech in Atlanta? Okay, what's a non-conference loss? You're still in the hunt for a berth. You still have a win over top 12 Texas. Your only loss in conference play is to Alabama.
And you beat Ole Miss. Yeah.
Yeah, and you beat Ole Miss. So you're fine. I think that's a fair 7.
I'll go Georgia there too. Or I guess I have Georgia at 8 because I'm one ahead of you, but I'll go Georgia there too. They can afford a loss. It doesn't, I don't even think it matters. If they lost to Texas and then beat Georgia Tech, I think they'd be fine. I'll go Georgia here at 8.
I go BYU next at 8. I think that Texas Tech, you can lose this one. Technically, you could lose to TCU, UCF, or Cincinnati and still be 10-2 and still have an opportunity to go to the college football playoff. Or you end up going 10-2. Utah goes 10-2. You have the head-to-head against them. Is there a common opponent that you would lose to? Let's say somehow, some way, the numbers look it out to where Utah goes to the Big 12 championship. They lose Texas Tech. I think that still you end up getting the benefit of the doubt at 10-2 and you get in. So I put you at 8.
So this is 9 for me. I'll go Oregon here. I do think that even with a loss in one of their last 3 games, they will have 2 quality wins in their last 2 games. And I cannot imagine a scenario in my mind where the Big Ten only gets 2 teams in. I just think it's way too political for that. So maybe kind of like the Notre Dame one where I think their logo carries some weight. I will say Oregon is my, what is this, 9? Yeah, we'll go with that.
9 for me too. I won't spend a lot of time. They could go 10-2. If you're 10-2, you're in.
Yep. Here's where it gets interesting. So 10 is the cutoff at this moment because there is going to be an ACC team in this, whether you want it or not. And there's going to be a group of 5 team in this, whether you want it or not. So 10, I feel like, is a really important line to get to. I will go with, I'll put BYU here. I'll say they find a way to get in, and I'll end it there. I think that it's tough because I think they kind of need to split. But again, if we see them lose 2 games to Texas Tech and Texas Tech's in our top 5 or 6, like, where does that shake out? So I think a big question is what happens if they go 11-2 and both losses are to Texas Tech? Do they still get in there?
I think so.
Okay, so then I'm going to go with them at 10.
I almost went Memphis here because I do like Memphis' schedule down the stretch. Tulane, Navy, and you also have one more matchup against East Carolina. You should be favored in all 3 of them, and you get a bye week in between. But again, I agree with you. I think Notre Dame, if you're 10-2, you're a lot to get on in. So I'll put you in the 10 spot. But I do think that game against Pitt, very, very tricky. If they lose to Pitt and you're 9-3, you're not getting in. You don't have a conference championship that you can hold your hat on.
What is the American Conference Championship? Is that a rematch with USF?
Right now it would be. But no, right now it'd be North Texas. No, it would be USF because USF has the head-to-head win over North Texas.
And North Texas did, yeah. And so if USF wins that, do they go?
I think USF would go then. And this is where I want to go ahead and bring this up real fast. The College Football Playoff Committee, every single week, I don't care if you put them at number 25. You have to have a G5 team in every single ranking. Because if then what's the point of saying, well, Louisville beat JMU on a Friday night, but JMU has looked like the more complete team as of late. And JMU has the better loss because Memphis has a loss to UAB, but they have a win over an SEC team. So every single week, the 25 spot needs to at least be a G5 team. Yeah,
we need to know. And I also... what's tough for me is there's so much cloak and dagger with this, but I would love to know, was it Memphis 32, JMU 37, and USF 40? Like, I want to know how, and then if USF wins this week, are they 36 and everybody jumps up a couple of spots? Like, where are they in relation to each other? Like, is Memphis thought of as worlds better than these other 2 teams? Are they relatively close? Like, Memphis beat them on a last drive. So I don't know. I have questions about the way that that's done. So I gave 10, 11. I'll go Memphis at this point. Not a ton of confidence, but I will go Memphis.
Memphis as well. I don't need to spend a lot of time. Memphis. I think Memphis does end up going to the playoff because I don't think they lose another game, but it is a G5 school. I'm not sure.
And then 12. What's the wild card here? You know what? I've gone first every single time. I'm making you do this one.
Well, it's Virginia as being the team that I'd have.
The ACC.
Yeah. So I don't think Virginia does it. I think Virginia loses to Duke, so that automatically gives them finally a conference loss. I still think it's going to be Louisville and Georgia Tech playing in Charlotte. So they're the team out because I don't think they're going to get the job done.
Who would go to Charlotte right now?
I believe it's Louisville and I believe it's Louisville and Virginia because Virginia is currently undefeated in ACC play for some reason since that game against NC State doesn't count as a conference game.
So we're confident that Georgia Tech has the tiebreaker over Louisville? Are we?
Well, they haven't played against each other, so you have to find a common opponent right now. And the common opponent, I think, would be NC State.
Which would, it's not a common opponent, though, because it happened out of conference, right? Oh, no, it did. Both of them are in conference. So Georgia Tech would go.
Right now, if the season were to end today, Georgia Tech would go. Louisville wouldn't. But Louisville's also only sitting at 4-1 in conference play, and Georgia Tech is at 5-1. And surprisingly, number 2 right now, if we're going based off of the numbers, what it says, would be Pitt. They'd be number 3 because they're also 5-1 in conference play.
Yeah, I'm going to do a video on the ACC tiebreaker scenarios for anybody watching who wants to check that out. It's the worst, but it got great views last year. I'll go Louisville. I'll say Louisville's my 12th. I think as of today, they're the team that I like the most.
But from a trust standpoint, you would have 12 be you'd be Virginia for the initial rankings because you don't trust Virginia.
Oh, yeah. 12 would be Virginia. Yeah. But I'll pick,
100%.
yes. So they're my 12th. The ACC team was always going to be my 12th.
Yeah.
Like, no matter who finds it in. And, but I mean, so they will be the 11 seed. I think they'll stay ahead of Memphis. But yeah, I'll say my prediction for the ACC at this moment is Louisville to win the conference. And
I go Georgia Tech. I'm still not giving up on the Yellow Jackets. I refuse to.
Yeah.
Refuse to do it.
That is our show. If you wouldn't mind hitting the subscribe button on your way out, if you want to click the video on the screen to see me and Graham break down the college football playoff from last night, you certainly can do that. Cole Thompson, TJ Pittinger, and the absent Tom Hannifan signing off. We'll see you guys on Monday.